ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಗೋಲ್ಡನ್ ಗೇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಸಾಧಿಸ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ನಾಗಭೂಷಣ್ ರಾವ್ ಅವರು. ಅವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಮಾಹಿತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋನಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅವರೇ ಖುದ್ದಾಗಿ ಅವರ ಅಚೀವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದೊಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸ್ಫೂರ್ತಿದಾಯಕವಾಗಿರಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋನ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ ನನ್ನ ಚಾನಲ್ಗೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಹಾಗೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ನಾಗಭೂಷಣ್ ರಾವ್ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವೇ ಖುದ್ದಾಗಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ.
ನನ್ನ ಕತೆ ಕೋಲಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಶುರುವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದವನು ಹಾಗೂ ತೆಲುಗಿನವನು, ಎರಡು ಭಾಷೆಗಳ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಕಾರಣ ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದಿರೋ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಘಟನೆಗಳು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಮಾತಾಡೋ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯಿತು. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಮೈ ಲೈಫ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ಕೋಲಾರ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ. It is also on the border of Andhra Pradesh and also very close to Tamil Nadu. Therefore, most of the people who grow up in India, unlike in other countries where they are either unilingual or just barely bilingual, in India we are all lucky because we learn 2 or 3 languages easily without having to learn it in school. So we spoke 2 languages at home, and we spoke several languages around us, and then the national language concept came with Hindi, so we learned all those languages. Anyway, I did my elementary school and middle school and everything basically into the tutelage of my own father. Finished my middle school and my high school and everything in Kolar. And then quickly moving on, there was only an intermediate college in Kolar in those days, and which means what they call first PUC and second PUC nowadays. Most of the things have changed since as my life progressed, and so I'll kind of hint at that. So 2 years of college in Kolar. And after that, we had to go outside if we wanted to continue college education. Otherwise, usually you don't take a job as a middle school teacher somewhere in there. In my case, my father could not really afford to send me out to college and pay for it, and also find a place for me to live and have boarding and lodging. And with all these difficulties, I wanted to go on the arts side. Actually, in the intermediate college, I chose the subjects. I started out with physics, chemistry, and mathematics, and I didn't like any of those subjects. And then one day, I attended a class by a very charismatic charismatic teacher, and his name was S.S. Raghavachar, and I heard his lecture on logic. I was sold. The very first day, I said, this is what I want to study. And after we finished that, I got one of the top 10 ranks in the intermediate college. And then I had to go in Bangalore. In those days, they did not have arts subject. So anyway, I was lucky enough. All my life has been a long list of lucky coincidences. And it so happened that I went to Mysore, and through some contacts, we found a hostel, a free hostel, because we could not really afford to pay for it. I did 4 years of college there. I always wanted to go to this program called honors program in those days. Honors program, that meant like you go for 3 years. If you fail at the end of the 3rd year, you come back to the 1st year. That was totally like it was snakes and ladders. kind of a situation. You go to the top and you go climb up a ladder, and then you hit a snake and you come down. So that was really challenging. I said, okay, I'll do that. It so happened through a lot of coincidences, I wanted to do economics, and then I didn't like it. Finally ended up in basically a new subject in those days. Not many people heard about it, not many people really flocked to it. There were only a few students in it. So I went into the sociology honors thing. And at the end of the 3 years, I came out number one. By then, we had grown to about 20 students in the class. And I came out number one, and the only one. So there was only one first class, and that was mine, out of 20 people, 20 really brilliant students. And I was flattered, and I never thought that was going to happen. I called it just a coincidence. It happened to me. Now let me hit the lucky streak and keep moving with it. And then there was one more year to go to finish my master's degree. But unfortunately, that was the year that my father retired. And he retired, even with a 1 year extension, he retired. And actually, I always remember my sister's sacrifice. My sister Sundari, she took a job as a middle school teacher and said, you go and finish your master's degree. I had a job on hand as a lecturer. With a BA honors, you could get a job as a lecturer. But with a master's degree, you had a future. So I made use of her sacrifice, good use of her sacrifice, and I always thank her for that. And I did my master's degree, and again there were about 20-25 students. I came out number one and one first class, and that was mine. Again, that really made me feel like, no, there is really something in me that is driving me, and I am really successful. This time I did not say it's a fluke. It happened in my life. Anyway, like several medals, and the Maharaja of Mysore, who was the chancellor at that time, not only pinned all the medals on me and said, what do you want to be, my child? Because I was a very, not malnourished, but I was not well grown, I was like 5 foot tall and about 82 pounds. And I really looked like a middle school or high school kid at that time. Anyway, he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? My child, he said. And so I said, nothing, sir, I just want to be like my father, I want to be a teacher. So he said, just go and report to the Maharani's College 3 doors down, and you are a lecturer. So that was another big turn of events for me, and I didn't call it coincidence this time. I said this is the first or second step on a ladder, and I'm climbing, so I better keep going here. And so I took that job for the remainder of that year, and then I got a regular lecturer job in Shimoga Sahyadri College, and there I was there for about 6 years. In the meanwhile, I became the head of the Department of Sociology there, and then through turn of events, I got transferred to Chikmagalur, and there I was there for 2 years. Chikmagalur was a very nice place, and it was all Malnad experience for me. And in those times, they used to say, "Oh, tappu madidavarna koppakke haku." Chikmagalur was not too far from Koppa, but that's where I went finally, and I was there for 2 years, and then I had my ambition. Since I was number one in all my studies, I was hoping that I would be placed at the Bangalore University, that's a new university, and I thought I would be teaching there. And when I approached the authorities, they kind of rebuffed me and said, for a variety of reasons like caste and creed and these kinds of things were rampant in those days, and they simply said, no, you are not going to see the campus of Bangalore University or Mysore University. You just keep thinking of Shimoga, Chikmagalur, Kolar, Tumkur, Raichur, Gulbarga, these kinds of things. As I heard those things, I said, this is not the place for me. I got to make a move. And it so happened again through a turn of a lot of events, a lot of obstacles. And by then my father had passed away, and the responsibility of my mother and 3 sisters, that was on me. With all of this, I managed to get one of my sisters married in that time, in that difficult time, and then I decided to go abroad. And going abroad was not even possible in my dream in those days. I was just shooting for the stars, although I had no weapons with me. I had no long ladder so that I could even at least try and climb. I don't even have a ladder visible to me. But still, I made an attempt, and I got admitted with a fellowship at Washington State University in the United States. And with an assistantship, I managed, and I got through 4 years in there. And then that was the time that sociology in America was very different from sociology in India. In India, sociology was social anthropology, it was social philosophy, and a little bit of what the Westerners would call sociology. And there, sociology was statistics, sociology was research methods, sociology was survey, and sociology was demography, sociology was stratification, so many other things. And in 4 years, I hadn't even written my dissertation. Sociology had reached I think this was around 1970, 1966. I moved to the United States. In 1970, the demand for sociology had reached sky high. Actually, I still remember that all the assistants, like me, we were all teaching 1 or 2 sections of introductory sociology classes at Washington State University. There was one big building with over 100 rooms. All 100 rooms were filled with sociology one-on-one classes. So there were 100 sections. There was so much demand, and people were offering us jobs from outside. And so the department really wanted to make hay when the sun was really shining on sociology in the United States. So we all got 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 7 job offers before I finished my dissertation. So it was totally another stroke of luck, and I was at the right place at the right time. And then of all the job offers, I don't know why, again, there were job offers from New York, from Indiana, from California, from Illinois, from so many different places. I picked the job offer from Alaska. That was, again, I have no idea why I made that decision. I was always up for a challenge. And every time I said, just like I did with my honors program, I wanted that challenge. And then I did my master's with this challenge. And then now there was the Northern Star calling me. So I said, I'm going to go reach for that star, and took the job in Alaska. In Alaska, as soon as I arrived there, that was the time the pipeline was beginning. They were beginning to build the pipeline, and there was a big controversy about the environment and also about what it would do to the lifestyle of the natives. I immediately jumped into that controversy. I took a position, I opposed the pipeline, and I took sides with the natives and said, unless the natives were properly compensated, this should not even proceed. And within 2 years, I was known all over the state. Again, another thing that happened in my life that I never looked for. I had not heard much about Alaska in those days. There I was, right in the middle of a huge national controversy. So it was all over the country. There were people talking about my position that I was taking, and but the pipeline was going to be built. I knew, because money is power, especially in America, and the big oil companies with the big $1 billion. In those days, billion was almost an imaginary word because nobody had billions of dollars, and the oil companies had multi-billion-dollar wealth, and so. But at least what I did was I worked very hard on behalf of the natives, and I got the natives, along with a lot of other people, hardworking people like me. We all worked to get the Alaska natives several million acres of land, and also we got them $6 billion in those days. Very soon after, Alaska natives owned airlines, owned big chain hotels, and they were going to schools and colleges. And in my own time in Alaska, I had 2 governors who were natives, and legislators, over 100 legislators in my 40 years in Alaska became legislators in those days. So I consider that probably my life's greatest achievement, fighting this. And I was able to stop nearly 100 villages from hosting any aircraft. So there was no alcohol coming in. And I also made sure that they were given free education. And so, in my own way, what I could not do when I was growing up, I had seen the plight of untouchables in India. And there was not a whole lot I could do. I did go and help them in college, and some with very little success. Although there was a lot of lip sympathy given to the untouchables in India, not much progress was made. And this was my biggest opportunity in life, and people were listening to me, and people thought, and the natives thought that I was a messiah from somewhere, and they used to call me the real Indian brother. And with all of those, I achieved something in my life, helping over 250,000 to 500,000 natives get their education, get their health care, and have a life. And I built a department called Behavioral Sciences, which was brand new. So they gave me the title, the father of behavioral sciences. I built a department called Behavioral Sciences and Human, Social and Medical Services, and took medical help to villages where they had never seen even a nurse operate in those villages. I was able to get nurses, paraprofessionals, mental health workers, all of them established in many villages. And then in these villages, they did not have access to college education. So through radio, I started with radio, through radio, and then through television, I established distance education. And with this distance education, it spread all over the country. I was able to make lecture, to videotape my lectures, and my lectures were videotaped all over the country through the PBS network, which is like a Doordarshan here, without any commercials. I had already taught about 6 million students through distance education, and I consider that another great achievement. And through distance education, through help for the natives, with all of this, and helping the professors around the country, they finally elected me the president or the chairperson of the American Association of University Professors, the National Education Association, and I held many, many positions, leadership positions, in helping the professorial academic community in America. Then I retired in 2008, and moved to Chicago. And I said to myself, I must do something new here. Forget about all my past glory. Instead of talking about past glory, I almost said to myself, maybe I should make some new glory. And there I started videography for children. And that really exploded in a way. 5-6 years, I must have reached at least 3,000 to 4,000 people, 3,000 to 4,000 children, and made 5,000 videos with about 37 million viewers around the world. And I have spent 55 years of my life. So most of my life I have spent in America, and maybe 27 years of my life in India. But I have been coming back, and all my children were born and raised, a girl and two boys, and the girl who is a nuclear physicist, and the two boys who are electrical engineers. They are all holding very high positions, nationally well-known people, and myself included. And my wife also worked in the university all this time with a degree with a master's degree in mathematics. She worked in many areas of geophysics and water resources and volcanology, earthquakes, and other fields. So we are both retired now, and we both live, so to say, happily ever after in Chicago. And the time is actually coming up for us to go back. If the coronavirus doesn't hit too close to the airports, I'm still hoping to go back, because people are waiting there for me to videograph their children on March 22. This is 2020. And thank you very much for listening to me and for giving me this opportunity to tell you a little bit about my story.